What if I told you that the biggest thing destroying your peace, focus, confidence, and happiness isn't your lack of talent, isn't your lack of money, isn't your lack of opportunity, but your own mind? Every day, millions of people wake up and immediately enter a battle. Not a battle with the outside world, a battle inside their own heads. A battle against overthinking, a battle against fear, a battle against imaginary futures, a battle against thoughts that never stop. They replay conversations, they worry about mistakes, they fear judgment, they imagine disasters. And the worst part? Most people believe their thoughts. They assume that because a thought appears in their mind, it must be true. But modern psychology, neuroscience, and decades of clinical research suggest something completely different. Your brain is not a truth machine. Your brain is a prediction machine. And sometimes, those predictions are completely wrong. Today, we're going to uncover 7 of the biggest anxiety traps. We'll look at what researchers discovered, what therapists teach, what neuroscientists found inside the brain, and most importantly, how to break free. Because anxiety is not defeated through force, it's defeated through understanding. Let's begin. 1. Chronic rumination. My mind never stops thinking. It's 2 a.m. You're exhausted. Your body wants sleep, but your mind has other plans. Suddenly, you're replaying an embarrassing moment from 5 years ago. Then you're thinking about an exam, then your future, then your career, then your relationships, then something else. And before you know it, you've spent 2 hours trapped inside your own thoughts. Nothing dangerous is happening, yet your body feels as if a threat is nearby. Why? Researchers at Harvard University discovered something fascinating. Human beings spend nearly 47% of their waking lives mind-wandering, almost half of life. And the study found that wandering minds were strongly associated with lower happiness. Think about that. Almost half your life is spent somewhere other than the present moment. But why does this happen? Neuroscientists point to something called the default mode network, or DMN. This is the network that becomes active when you're not focused on a task. It's responsible for self-reflection, planning, remembering, imagining, all useful abilities. But when this system becomes overactive, reflection becomes rumination, planning becomes worrying, imagination becomes catastrophe. The brain begins creating simulations. What if I fail? What if they don't like me? What if everything goes wrong? Notice something. Most anxiety begins with 2 words. What if? Those 2 words drag you out of reality and into imagination, and the mind treats those imagined futures as real dangers. Psychologists often recommend a simple but powerful question. What problem exists right now? Not tomorrow, not next week, not next year. Right now. Most of the time, you'll discover something surprising. The problem exists only in the future, not in the present. And that realization immediately weakens anxiety's grip. 2. The spotlight effect. Everyone is judging me. Imagine walking into a room. You trip slightly. You mispronounce a word. You say something awkward. Immediately, your brain says, everyone noticed. Everyone thinks I'm weird. Everyone is judging me. Sound familiar? This anxiety trap affects millions of people, especially students, especially young adults, especially anyone who struggles with social anxiety. But psychologist Thomas Gilovich from Cornell University discovered something surprising. He called it the spotlight effect. People consistently overestimate how much others notice them. In experiments, participants believed their mistakes and appearance were highly visible, but observers barely noticed. Why? Because everyone is busy thinking about themselves. Think about it honestly. How much time do you spend analyzing every mistake made by a stranger? Almost none, because you're focused on your own life, and everyone else is doing exactly the same thing. Most people are not watching you. Most people are worrying about themselves. This realization can be incredibly freeing. The next time anxiety says, everyone is judging me,
ask, what evidence do I actually have? Not assumptions, not feelings, evidence. Often there isn't any, and that's when you realize something powerful. Feeling judged and actually being judged are 2 different things. 3. The avoidance trap. I avoid what makes me nervous. This trap feels good. At first, you avoid the presentation. Relief. You avoid the difficult conversation. Relief. You avoid speaking in public. Relief. You avoid making the phone call. Relief. Every time you avoid something scary, anxiety temporarily decreases, which sounds like a good thing, but it isn't, because your brain learns a dangerous lesson. If I avoided it, it must have been dangerous. And now the fear becomes stronger. This is why therapists often say, avoidance feeds anxiety. Clinical research in cognitive behavioral therapy repeatedly shows that avoidance keeps anxiety disorders alive. Why? Because the brain never receives new evidence. The amygdala, the brain's alarm system, never learns that the situation is survivable. Imagine someone terrified of elevators. If they avoid elevators forever, their brain never discovers that elevators are safe. The fear remains frozen. The solution? Gradual exposure. Not overwhelming yourself, not forcing yourself into panic. Gradual exposure. One small step, then another, then another. Confidence is not something you wait for. Confidence is something you build. Every courageous action sends a message to the brain. I survived. And eventually the brain starts believing it. 4. Somatic anxiety. My body feels anxious for no reason. Sometimes anxiety doesn't begin with thoughts. It begins with the body. Your heart starts racing. Your chest feels tight. Your breathing changes. Your hands shake. Your stomach feels uncomfortable. And suddenly your mind says, something is wrong. But according to the American Psychological Association, anxiety activates the body's fight or flight response. The brain's threat detection system, the amygdala, can trigger physical symptoms before conscious awareness even notices anything. The body reacts first. The mind explains later. This is why anxiety often feels so convincing. The symptoms are real. The danger isn't. Think about a horror movie. Your heart races. Your palms sweat. Your muscles tense. Yet nothing dangerous is happening. Your body is responding to a perceived threat. Anxiety works similarly. One powerful technique therapists teach is controlled breathing, especially longer exhalations. When you inhale, heart rate slightly increases. When you exhale slowly, heart rate slows down. Longer exhalation to stimulate the vagus nerve and activate the body's calming system. In simple terms, the body begins telling the brain, we're safe. And when the body feels safe, the mind gradually follows. Part 2. The deeper layers of anxiety. 5. Sleep onset anxiety. My brain won't shut off at night. Have you ever noticed something strange? During the day, you're busy. You have classes, work, assignments, friends, videos, messages, distractions. Your mind seems manageable. Then night arrives. You lie down. The room becomes quiet. And suddenly, your brain becomes the loudest thing in existence. Thought after thought, memory after memory, fear after fear, questions without answers, problems without solutions. It's as if your mind has been waiting all day for this exact moment. Many people think this means they have poor self-control, but neuroscience tells a different story. Researchers at the University of California, Berkeley, discovered something fascinating about sleep and anxiety. They found that sleep deprivation dramatically increases activity in emotional centers of the brain, while reducing activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for rational thinking and emotional regulation. In simple language, when you're tired, your emotional brain becomes louder, and your logical brain becomes quieter. Think about the last time you were exhausted. Small problems felt bigger. Minor setbacks felt overwhelming. Normal worries suddenly felt catastrophic. Nothing changed externally, but your brain changed internally.
That's why anxious people often get trapped in a vicious cycle. Anxiety causes poor sleep. Poor sleep increases anxiety. Increased anxiety causes even worse sleep. The cycle repeats. Therapists often recommend something called cognitive offloading. Before sleeping, spend 5 minutes writing down every worry, task, concern, and responsibility. Everything. Get it out of your head. Why? Because your brain keeps repeating worries because it thinks they're unfinished. It doesn't want you to forget. Writing them down tells the brain, I've stored this somewhere safe. Another powerful technique is called stimulus control. If you stay awake in bed for long periods, your brain starts associating the bed with thinking rather than sleeping. Instead, if you're awake for more than 20 minutes, get up briefly. Read, stretch, sit quietly, then return when sleepy. Train your brain to associate bed with sleep, not overthinking. Remember this, you don't solve your future at 2 a.m. You only lose sleep. 6. Hypervigilance. I feel like something bad is about to happen. This form of anxiety is subtle. There may be no obvious problem. Life might actually be going well, yet you feel uneasy, restless, alert, tense, as if disaster is waiting around the corner. Many anxious people describe it like this: I can't relax. I feel like something is wrong. I keep waiting for bad news. I don't trust good things. Even during happy moments, part of the mind is preparing for disaster. Why? Neuroscientist Dr. Judson Brewer discovered something important. The brain can accidentally turn worrying into a habit. Over time, the brain starts believing that worrying is helpful. It thinks, if I worry enough, I'll be prepared. If I expect the worst, I won't be surprised. If I stay alert, I can prevent problems. But that's not actually what happens. Worrying rarely prevents problems. Instead, it creates the illusion of control. Imagine carrying an umbrella inside your house because it might rain next week. It doesn't protect you, it only exhausts you. This is exactly what chronic worry does. The brain confuses preparation with protection. One technique used in acceptance and commitment therapy is called cognitive diffusion. The goal isn't to fight thoughts. The goal is to step back from them. Instead of saying, something terrible is going to happen, say, my brain is predicting danger right now. Notice the difference. The first statement feels like reality. The second statement feels like an observation. The thought hasn't changed, but your relationship to the thought has. And that's where freedom begins, because anxiety loses power when you stop treating every prediction as a fact. 7. Meta-anxiety. I'm anxious about being anxious. This may be the most important anxiety trap of all, and most people don't even realize they're doing it. Imagine you're about to give a presentation. Your heart beats faster. You feel nervous. That's normal anxiety. But then another thought appears. Why am I nervous? I shouldn't feel this way. What's wrong with me? I need this feeling to disappear. Now something interesting happens. You're no longer anxious about the presentation. You're anxious about your anxiety, and the anxiety doubles. Psychologists call this meta-anxiety. Anxiety about anxiety. Fear of fear. Worry about worrying. This creates a second layer of suffering. The first layer is the original emotion. The second layer is resistance, and often the resistance hurts more than the emotion itself. Imagine quicksand. Most people instinctively struggle. They fight, kick, panic, but that makes them sink faster. Anxiety works similarly. The harder you fight every uncomfortable feeling, the stronger it often becomes. Researchers studying acceptance and commitment therapy found something surprising. People improved not because they eliminated anxiety. They improved because they stopped fighting it. Instead of trying to destroy anxiety, they learned to make room for it. This doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean enjoying anxiety. It means recognizing a simple truth. You don't need to feel perfect before taking action. Think about athletes, actors, entrepreneurs, public speakers. Most still feel nervous. The difference is that they move forward anyway. Courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is action despite fear. Instead of saying, I must get rid of this feeling, try saying, I'm feeling anxiety right now, and I can still move forward. That single shift changes everything.
Because now anxiety is no longer the driver, it's just a passenger. The Universal Therapist Protocol. After decades of research, psychologists from different approaches have reached a surprising conclusion. Whether it's CBT, ACT, mindfulness, exposure therapy, or modern neuroscience, the core message is remarkably similar. Thoughts are not facts. Your brain creates stories, predictions, possibilities, warnings, but not every thought deserves belief. Most therapists teach some version of the same 4-step process. Step 1, acknowledge. Instead of saying, I'm broken, say, I'm experiencing anxiety right now. This sounds small, but it's powerful. You stop becoming the emotion. You start observing it. Step 2, differentiate. Separate thoughts from reality. Instead of, I'm going to fail, try, I'm having the thought that I might fail. This creates psychological distance, and distance creates clarity. Step 3, test. Ask questions. What evidence supports this fear? What evidence contradicts it? What would I tell a friend in the same situation? Anxiety thrives on assumptions. Logic weakens assumptions. Step 4, move. This is the step most people skip. Take action. A small action, a tiny action, any useful action. Because action teaches the brain something thinking never can. Experience. Every action says, I survived. Every action weakens fear. Every action builds confidence. The biggest lesson about anxiety. If you remember only one thing from this entire video, let it be this. Your mind's job is not to make you happy. Your mind's job is to keep you alive. That's why it constantly searches for danger. That's why it imagines problems. That's why it predicts threats. It's trying to protect you. The problem is that the system is ancient. It evolved for a world filled with predators, starvation, and survival threats. Not social media, not exams, not public speaking, not text messages. The same brain that once protected your ancestors can accidentally create suffering in modern life. But once you understand what's happening, everything changes. You stop believing every thought. You stop obeying every fear. You stop treating every emotion as an emergency. And slowly, something remarkable happens. You begin trusting yourself, not because anxiety disappears, but because you realize you can handle it. Anxiety may still visit, it may still whisper, it may still predict disasters, but now you know something it doesn't. Thoughts are not facts. Feelings are not predictions. Fear is not destiny. And every time you take one step forward despite anxiety, you prove that you're stronger than the stories your mind tells you. Because freedom isn't the absence of anxiety. Freedom is living your life anyway. If you're enjoying the video so far, hit the subscribe button.